over the past year, Tyler, we've talked to so many businesses that have been struggling and having to pivot throughout the pandemic to keep their doors open. But one business that has been doing pretty well, the cannabis industry.
Yes.
We've talked to our good friend Ann Quinnett, Q, a few times, as well as the owner over at Wall Lake. Business is actually booming. But when we hear so much about cannabis here in the state of Michigan because the rules and regulations have been changing, but there are still so many hurdles for the business owners, as Q kind of pointed out. Yeah. But one part of that conversation we haven't talked about at all is insurance for some of these businesses. With us now on the MegaCast, let's bring in Amanda Kugler. She's the insurance producer over at The Roots Insurance. Amanda, great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
I will say when I saw insurance, I was like, what are we going to talk about? Other than everyone should have life insurance coming out of the pandemic, right?
Yeah, that's definitely one thing we can take away from the pandemic for sure.
I will say I updated my life insurance because I changed employment and was like, I better get life insurance.
Right.
Hate to think
it just proves that you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. But one of the things, a little bit about your company, the Roots Insurance Company, you're a little bit different than some of the other ones, and you have a unique approach, and that you're helping to support our cannabis industry here in the state of Michigan, which we know is quickly growing into a multi-million-dollar business. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so I started back in insurance back in 2009, and I had nothing to do with cannabis. I actually didn't even do much commercial insurance at that time. I was strictly doing personal lines work, and back in 2015, I decided to branch out and open an independent brokerage. So in 2015, I did that. And as you guys know, when you're starting a business, you're pretty much willing to do anything to get your business up and running and to make some money so you can pay your bills. And in 2016, I got approached to insure a cannabis facility. In full disclosure, when I got approached, I thought, absolutely not. There's no way there's insurance product out here for this. I know nothing about cannabis. My entire life, I was just told not to do drugs, and I assumed cannabis was a drug that I should stay away from. However, as a new business owner looking to grow, I did a little bit of research, and I flew myself out to Denver, and I sat in a master's insurance class. And I listened to adjusters, I listened to actuarials and other insurance agents out of Colorado who had been insuring cannabis facilities since 2009. And I realized that here in Michigan, it was a great opportunity for myself as an agency owner to dabble in an industry that I had never been a part of before. And also to be there to support these business owners as they're going through an extremely highly regulated industry. And I can be a resource for them if I just educated myself on the facilities that I was insuring and the regulation that was required, both from an application and licensing standpoint, but also from an insurance standpoint. And that's what I did. I educated myself. I learned about markets. I learned about policy form. I learned about facilities. I walked through facilities. I joined networking groups, and I became pretty educated in the cannabis industry.
It was such a smart move as well, because now the cannabis industry in the state of Michigan is really starting to take off. But we do know there are still so many hurdles for some of these business owners. And, we still know that in the eyes of the federal law, it's illegal. So does that put, a few wrenches in how you approach trying to insure some of these businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the areas that the federal regulation affects us with insuring them is, number one, the limited markets that we have for the clients. A lot of the insurance companies view the federal regulation as no protection for them. And so they are not willing to jump into the space to offer insurance for licensees. So that is our biggest hurdle right there, is getting adequate coverage at affordable pricing and having a lot of different options for our clients. We just don't have that right now. If a client comes to me and they want coverage, I have maybe 5 markets that I can go to, versus a standard business, I could have 20 to 25 markets that I could go to and really get competitive pricing and coverage. The next piece is insuring cash. So obviously because it's federally illegal, a lot of our clients don't have a place where they can put their money. And the insurance companies are not willing to insure high limits of cash. So if a client of mine has $1 million in cash sitting in their facility before they deposit it to the bank, a lot of that is uninsured. And so that's a big risk and exposure for our clients. So hopefully, as federal regulations get passed and it becomes federally legal, we can address some of those major issues for our clients.
Yeah, because what we are seeing, especially here in Metro Detroit, is there are so many break-ins.
Yeah.
For some of these, facilities. I know that Q's place in Detroit had been broken into, but so many others as well because they just assume there's going to be cash inside.
Yeah, and most of the time they're not even getting cash. So the MRA has done a really good job of setting very strict security requirements of these facilities. So our number one claim that we're seeing, we call them a smash and grab, where they're taking a vehicle through a building like
Yep.
Q and grabbing as much as they can. And most of our clients are pretty smart. They're not just leaving cash out. They're putting that in a secured facility. And by the time by the time the, burglars are getting in, the police are going to be there in a couple of minutes. So they're not able to break into a vault or a safe. They're just grabbing what's on the walls and leaving.
And so, with that, do you anticipate though that your business is going to continue to grow? I mean, did it slow down during the pandemic, or have you remained busy?
Yeah, we've remained busy. We've grown. It's actually been pretty stressful for not only our clients but us as well, because everybody here in my office has kids who are home, and so we're trying to manage that extremely busy period for our clients while also having kids at home and making sure they're getting schooling. But yeah, we did not see a slowdown. If anything, because the state started to allow for delivery, we had a lot of our clients who were purchasing commercial vehicles or who were implementing a delivery program, and we needed to make sure that we were there for our clients to accurately ensure that new exposure.
Wow, Amanda Kugler with us here on the MegaCast. She's the insurance producer at the Roots Insurance Company. And what has this process been like for you to learn about this industry? That, in all honesty, I'm one of you, like Amanda, that you think negative thoughts about the cannabis industry when you're not a weed smoker.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's what happened, in the 90s and early 2000s. I mean, there was this big push, DARE programs and trying to get kids away from drugs. But once you really start to open your mind up about the benefits of this plant, you start to realize that this really isn't a drug like the big name drugs. This is medicine for most of my clients. And even on the recreational side, we really view this as like a liquor store. I mean, it's not this big bad drug that everybody talked about that was implemented into kids' minds when we were growing up. So it's definitely been interesting. And I think my favorite part about this industry is I'm constantly learning every day. I mean, people call me an expert in cannabis insurance, and I politely decline that title because I find that it's hard to be an expert in an industry that's constantly changing. And not only in Michigan, but because it's not federally legal, every state has their own laws and regulation. And we don't write just in Michigan, we write across the country. So I have to know all of the states that have different laws.
Wow. That,
Yeah.
that in itself is a bit of a full time challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why when anybody says Amanda's the cannabis insurance expert, I'm like, I can't be an expert. I work really hard and I will do my best. And if I don't know something, I will try my hardest to find it out. But with the industry that's constantly changing and evolving and growing, it's hard to be an expert.
But it's not only the state laws, but then you have the local ordinances for each community, which could be different.
Yep, absolutely. And that's something that is also a hurdle for us because every municipality has a different ordinance that has different insurance requirements. So not only do we have to make sure that we're satisfying the MRA requests, but we're also making sure that the cities are taken care of because they're not always in line. And there's sometimes surety bonds that are required or additional insured status. And a lot of times this will negatively or could negatively impact a client's licensing.
Because what we don't want to see happen, we do know Pontiac just approved several locations in the city of Pontiac for them to move forward on their plans to open up some of the dispensaries there in the city. Is what you don't want to see happen is, a place like this, they don't have the proper insurance, something does happen, and then it sits there as an empty building and becomes a blighted piece of property or eyesore on the community. So it's important to have these, issues taking place. But we really need the federal government to kind of get on board and make this a standardized situation, because I would imagine that would make your job so much easier.
Really would. And, not only my job, I think about my clients and what they have to go through. So I think for their own protection, I would like to see there be some type of federal legalization.
So with that, Amanda, since you've been doing this, have you found it's big businesses behind some of these dispensaries opening up, or smaller people, smaller businesses?
I would say it's a mix of both. I always joke, sometimes I have to put on a lot of different hats. Sometimes I'm talking to a very extremely successful investor out of New York. And then sometimes I'm talking to somebody who's been growing cannabis in their basement for 10 years. And each of those needs a different type of handholding through the insurance process. The investor has been dealing with this for years and years and years and knows all the words that I'm saying. And then, the grower that's been growing in their basement, they don't understand necessarily insurance and how that impacts them and getting workers' compensation and things like that. So I would say it's a good mix across the board, but I am seeing more of the mom and pop stores getting investors. Now, I wouldn't say that they're, large investors looking to come in and take over the state in that scenario, but there are a lot of investors involved in all aspects of the industry.
We're talking with Amanda Kugler. She's the insurance producer, the Roots Insurance. So the name of your insurance company was long before you got involved in the cannabis industry, right?
It actually wasn't. So we rebranded with the Roots. And the reason that we did that is because I really wanted a name that would show that we were here for the cannabis industry, but also not turn off any of our personalized clients or standard businesses. And so we developed the Roots Insurance as like the foundation for your protection. And that's where we came up with the Roots.
Well, I like your logo. And with that, Amanda, for people, just regular people, Joe Schmoes like me, what advice do you give them in the middle of the pandemic when it comes to their, personal insurance needs?
Well, I would say in the middle of the pandemic is a perfect time to just take a look at your insurance and review it with your agent. We all have a little bit more time at home. We're not running around as much as we normally are. I know I took this as a time just to run through my coverages, like we talked about at the beginning, checking the life insurance. The umbrella is a big piece. We're starting to see more and more lawsuits come. I've had a couple clients with dog bites or their dog bit their neighbor. It's not a bad idea to check on your liability limits, make sure that they're adequate. And if you need more coverage, umbrella policies are extremely affordable. And that just gives you an extra layer of $1 million, $2 million in liability coverage in the event that that lawsuit does come up.
So important, things we don't think about until we need them. And like you said, we're all home now. Make sure you have your homeowner's insurance up to date. I know for us, it was the flood. Which came down, took over a year.
2014? That one?
Yeah, no. Our we had a bathroom flood, and then it went down into the office. And trying to get contractors right now, it took about a year to get everything.
That's not a good time to have a home insurance claim.
No, it really isn't. But Amanda, it's been great talking to you. We so appreciate your insight and really your support for the cannabis industry here in the state of Michigan, because it's going to continue to grow.
It is. Yep, we're excited.
Thank you again, Amanda Kugler, with us, the insurance producer over at the Roots Insurance.